Gentlemen, I should like to call to order, please, this meeting of the Employment and Appeals Committee. The first agenda item this evening is the appointment of a vice chairman. Do I have any nominations, please? Mr. Walters?
Councillor Fox, Chairman.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Payne. Are you content to stand?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other nominations? No, I don't see any. Are we all in favour of Councillor Fox as Vice Chairman?
Yeah, it's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on, I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting. Have we received any apologies for tonight?
So tonight, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Harvey, and also Councillor Brown is here in place of Councillor Powell for this meeting only.
Thank you very much and welcome, Councillor Brown. Can I remind everybody, please, to use their microphones when they're speaking, because this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. And if you don't, your words of wisdom will not be picked up. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? No, none. Thank you. I propose to slightly alter the agenda now at this point and move to item 8, apprenticeships. And I'm going to hand over initially to Carol. And Carol has brought with her, or he's come on his own, but has invited on our behalf, Liam Bottomley, who is an IT apprentice, and we thought that it would be very helpful from us to hear about apprenticeships from the apprentice's perspective. Carol.
Thank you, Chair. So we've presented before you this evening an up-to-date paper in terms of where we're at with our apprenticeship programme. We've reported at this meeting a couple of times over the last couple of years, and we wanted just to give you a good reflection on what we've done so far. Our assessment is, I think we have done pretty well. There has been some changes with the apprenticeship levy, but even so, you know, we are still using that as a bit of a target and an aim for us to achieve. Currently, we are slightly lower than we'd like to be in terms of our pipeline of apprenticeships and apprenticeship standard qualifications. Recruitment and retention has certainly been a challenge, and I think managers currently are tending to be a little bit reactive when they get vacancies rather than pausing and being reflective and thinking about alternatives, particularly an apprenticeship post. And in addition, I think it's fair to say that the resource level within the HR team has struggled a little bit over the last year. So we certainly haven't been in a position to guide the programme as much as we had intended and would like to have done. We have now done some realignment within the HR team, and we will be having a new senior HR advisor join us in the next few weeks who will pick up the lead for the apprenticeship programme. And certainly we want to be quite proactive in shining a light on some of our successes, which again I've highlighted in the paper. And our objective still remains to focus on the quality of programmes rather than chasing numbers. So we're really keen on supporting programmes that really can make a difference to the business, and particularly our recruitment and retention. So for example, HR, IT, planning, surveying, social care are all the sorts of programmes we're starting to see now people that are following. And we're certainly seeing more interest in those sort of professional area groups. So I think the breadth of programmes that we're supporting is actually quite pleasing. I've reported before that 20 and 21 were a little bit less successful for us, but you know, others, and that's why we have Liam here, you know, have really gone on and excelled. So that's why it's really important to hear experiences from Liam, and he will give you an honest account, so which is important. But most of our apprenticeship programs do work across existing roles rather than full apprenticeships. Some of them again are in structured career graded posts such as social care, planning and surveying, and I've included some comments in the report on their particular feedback as well. But going forward, I would say, yeah, discussions that we're having with managers, it is warming up, and I would say if we can get to a position where we do have 8 to 10 programs that we're covering a year, some through existing staff and some apprenticeship programs of the right type. I think that would be a good position. So that's just a very brief caveat in terms of the paper that I've presented. So we can either take questions now, or we can invite Liam to speak and for you to question Liam as well. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Liam.
Thank you. I've been an apprentice for 14 months. Originally, I worked for about 9 months last year with IT, doing similar position. And I'm going to Peterborough College. That's where I'm taught. I go there 1 day a week on a Tuesday. And the apprenticeship is overall really good. It's going really well. I feel like I'm learning and I'm getting the opportunity to branch out into different areas to gather evidence for my apprenticeship portfolio. Having everyone working from home, it's been a little bit more difficult to sort of share the knowledge and about all of our systems, but I understand that everyone's sort of adapting to that. So it's a new thing, you know. All around positive though, from my experience as an apprentice. My manager's great. Any opportunity to get more evidence collected, he's all for it. I have regular meetings with my assessor. Regular, once every 12 weeks, and weekly meetings with my manager, James. He makes sure I'm staying updated on my apprenticeship. You have to excuse me, I'm a bit nervous. It's going really well. I've got about 5-6 months left. At the end of May I finish, and I hope that Rutland keep me. I know there's a position that's available in IT, and I think fingers crossed they'll keep me. You'll keep me. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I have to say. The pay. Okay. The pay, it was really bad at the start. It was £4.30 an hour. Now it's £6.83, which is much better. I'm able to, live. Started driving lessons, and that's going quite well. So obviously wish I was 23 so I could get the living wage, £9.50. But I was thinking about this the other day, that if you were to increase my pay, you'd probably have to increase all the other apprentices if there are any other under 23. So it's probably not feasible. But yeah, I see on a lot of forums and stuff online that a lot of apprentices are all getting the minimum. And I suppose that I'm getting the education, the work experience, the qualification, and the knowledge. So it's fair enough, to be honest. Areas of sort of communication, really good. Any stumbles in the processes of getting onto my apprenticeship, it was mainly the college side that there were delays with, but it was all relatively smooth. And yeah, I think that's everything. Any questions?
Thank you. Well, over to you, ladies and gentlemen. Questions both for Liam and for Carol. Councillor Fox.
Can I ask where you live? Are you in Rutland?
Yeah, I'm in Oakham.
Okay, cool. And how old are you?
20.
20. Okay. So you stayed on the minimum for 81 until you were, when did you join us? When you were 18?
So I joined when I was 18. And it was the reason I'm getting the minimum wage for my age now is because I was on the apprenticeship for 1 year.
Okay.
And after the first year, if you're over 18, it goes to the minimum rather than the apprentice wage.
Okay.
Which is different.
Okay. And how do you get to Peterborough? You go on?
I get a train, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the cost of that is covered.
Good.
Which I'm very happy about.
Okay. And you're finding Peterborough College okay? the level
Yeah.
of education?
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's a lot of documentation, so I can just follow that.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite independent in terms of that.
And are you on the, which course are you actually on? Because there's two on here that's in.
IT solutions technician level 3.
Okay. So you get to repair things.
Yeah, try and repair things.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks for the speech. No need to feel nervous because you did really well. I just wanted to follow up really from June's question. When you come back with lots of documentation and studying, do you get study time allowed as well?
Yeah, so if for whatever reason college isn't open or my teacher isn't in,
Yeah.
I can do it from home or I can go to the library there. And my manager, James, says that if I ever need time to gather evidence and stuff and just get on with college work, he says I'm welcome to, like, as long as I give him enough advance, I'm able to have my time to do that. I haven't needed to because I've also got weekends, but yeah, that's the way it is.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Walters.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, ditto. You needn't have been nervous because to speak as you did without notes was really good. And thanks for getting this thing working. It's hopeless. How much of your time here is learning and how much of it is actually doing work?
99% learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning here. Oh, sorry. By doing work, do you mean college work or work?
I mean, doing work that you would normally be doing if you were paid as a normal employee.
Oh, it's probably 99% work, like working for the council, and then 1% sort of college work. I tend to do it after hours.
Yeah.
And there isn't all that much. As long as you do your sort of 15 minutes a day, you can keep up with it.
Thanks. Excuse my ignorance, but your pay, do you get paid that while you're at college as well on that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Something I forgot to mention,
Yeah.
which is a bonus to get paid on that college.
Right, thank you. May I ask a question of Carol?
Of course.
Carol, looking at Liam's age and the amount that is being paid, and not him, but all apprentices, is that actually the sort of market norm or the industry standard? And is it the best we can do? Because I'm just a little bit concerned about it.
Yeah, the apprenticeship rates are nationally set apprentice pay rates. So if somebody's on an apprenticeship programme, that defines the pay rate by age and by the length of their time. So they are national pay rates. So the intention is, obviously, with somebody pursuing an apprenticeship programme, is that at the end of that programme, subject to them being successful with that programme, that you'd hope that you do have a permanent role for them then to move into on a substantive basis. With apprentices in Rutland, we've always taken the view that, as Liam said, that they are in a real job, they're getting real work experience. So in terms of preparing them for a permanent and substantive role, then they are in the best place possible, as opposed to being perhaps very much a traditional apprentice or trainee, when perhaps you might not be doing quite so much of the real life work. So we give them the real experience of the role. So when that permanent job comes up, they're in the best place possible to move into that role. But the apprentice rates are national apprentice salary rates. So we need to lobby the government to increase those rates.
If I could come back, so all of Liam's expenses covered, getting there and everything else. Are all of Liam's expenses getting there and everything else all covered?
Yeah, so Liam should be claiming his travel expenses and so forth. So there shouldn't be any other expense that Liam has associated with the course. So as you said, again, the arrangement with the apprenticeship programme is that they've changed the rules of it slightly, but in essence, you work 4 days and you have 1 day of training, but you're paid for the 5 days. Yeah.
Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Liam, for your little speech. It was very good. How are you assessed? Do you have to do coursework, or is there an exam at the end, or how does that work?
So there are final exams at the end, but there's also throughout the year, at the last year of the apprenticeships are now, you gather evidence that you make sort of coursework that you can use. And at the the last 3 months of the apprenticeship, there's an endpoint assessment where you have to go for an interview and you choose three of your, I suppose, strongest pieces of evidence, and you work on them and make them better. And then you show them to these people who will ask you, various questions.
So this would be good practice then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Councillor Fox.
Does the assessor actually come out here to see you on occasions?
To my previous assessor who left, she came here once. My current assessor hasn't. We do remote meetings.
Anyone else? I have a question, please. You made reference to the difficulties that you have in learning from other people as you're working remotely. Everyone in the council is. Apart from that, and clearly having people in the office more would deal with that one. So apart from that, is there anything else you think the council could do better to support apprentices?
Other than pay, no.
Well, you've unfortunately heard from Carol
Yeah,
that pay is
yeah.
outside our gift. Thank you. And I know how daunting it must have been coming and talking to us. So I'd like to thank you very much from all of us, if there are no further questions of you. And I agree with Councillor Payne. You did a sterling job this evening, so thank you. for
Thank
that.
you.
You may leave if you wish, or you
Okay,
can
yeah.
stay and watch the meeting if you prefer.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Are there any other questions from anybody of Carol? Councillor Fox.
I believe there is the minimum wage for apprenticeships, which is £4.81, but you can actually pay them more than that if you choose to. Is that not right? Is that not RCC's policy?
We haven't paid more than the apprenticeship rate. That's correct. We haven't paid more than the apprenticeship rate for our apprentices, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Could we, though, if we wanted?
We would have to develop that as part of our pay policy.
Councillor Walters?
Well, it's not a lefty question. Has anyone left any of the apprenticeship schemes?
Due to the salary?
No, for any reason, and if so, do we know why in general?
Well, in
Specific-
20 and 21, yes, we did lose a couple of apprentices. It was at the time of lockdown and they just could not really cope with coming out of school, having then started work for a short period of time and then having to work from home, trying to study, and they found that very difficult. So we had 2 apprentices that year that weren't successful and left probably within 6 to 9 months of starting. I think there were circumstances around that in terms of the timing and the type of programme that they had started. And they're really, I think there was a bit, they found it very difficult to adjust to this different type of learning. Very difficult.
Thank you.
So
I remain concerned about that figure when I know what you can get paid for serving McDonald's, but
I just want to say, I think, for Liam, that was a really big thing for Liam to come in and say that. So I was really pleased when he messaged me, I think it was yesterday, to say, oh, actually, I can come along. So if it's still okay, can I do so? That was a really big thing for him to do. It was quite big when I asked him to do a written note, actually. One of his colleagues said to me, oh, he sat there straight away very diligently doing his note, and he produced a very good written summary for me, actually. So, but yeah, so thank you for... Well, thanks for asking him and being very, very kind to him, as I know you would. Thank you.
I hope we would be kind to somebody in that situation. I think it's important for us to actually hear from the people that we are talking about. So I was very grateful to him for agreeing to come, because for a young man, it isn't easy to come and do this. So can you pass on our thanks, please, Carol? I've got a couple of questions though, or a question. Our apprenticeships, if I understood it correctly, when there is a vacancy or a role that needs filling, you have a conversation with the managers about whether it should be apprentice or not. Do we ever consider having or taking on apprentices that are supernumerary, having actually a program that we want X number of apprentices in this area, Y number in that area, without any certainty that there'll be a role at the end of it, knowing that what sort of churn we have in a number of our areas?
It's not a program we have currently. We certainly have in the past talked between myself and finance, for example, and our business support teams about potential generic apprenticeship that perhaps was doing business admin that could rotate around services. So I think it is possible and it's doable. We don't have it currently. We could explore whether that would still be something we could adopt, but we would need to identify a role or a vacancy that we could use in that way, because clearly we don't have in our salary budget provisions for supernumerary posts. So we would need to look at a collaborative way of pooling money to create the salary pot for an apprentice.
I appreciate that. I wonder if it is worth exploring, because I see the potential as being an invest to save. Oh, Councillor Payne's nodding. Jolly good, as our controller of finances. I think it might be worthwhile, because for those of us who've been on this council for a period of time, we regularly are saying, oh, we can't recruit to X or we can't recruit to Y. Can't we grow our own? Well, yes, you can, but as we've heard tonight, 2 years in apprenticeship, you're not going to have a fully fledged straight away, even if you get an apprentice. So, I mean, I'm not saying do it by any manner of means, but I think it's worth exploring whether there might be scope to look for some invest to save money. I'm seeing nods all the way down the table, so that seems to be generating some support. You don't need a formal proposal, do you? No, jolly good. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else on that paper? Oh, you want to come back in?
So I was just going to say, I did have a further note from one of the other apprentices, if you just wanted me to read his submission. He wasn't able to come along this evening.
That was one of two things I was still going to ask, but that's going to end on a positive note. So I'll ask something that's neutral first. You do make reference in the paper to T levels. I wonder if you could, for the benefit of members of the committee who may not be up to speed on those, briefly explain what they are.
Okay, so T levels are a still relatively new qualification that, again, individuals primarily though are based at the college. So they go to, they're almost a bit of a reversal to apprenticeship, where they are in employment most of the time and then have 1 day a week at college. With a T level, the individual is at college, but then is based within an employer to gain experience. Now, interestingly, with those programs, yet there is no salary or pay involved in them, but it is about giving them very regular work experience aligned to the course and qualification that they're doing. So I had a conversation with the LGA a few months ago, and they did some research for me in terms of colleges that within our geographical region that perhaps would have programs and courses that we would be interested in that align to the sort of roles that we had here. Now, when I spoke to them, there was very limited availability of programs through either Stanford, Peterborough or other colleges. But I am still in contact with them, and we will keep pursuing that. And at the request of council, well, I did also raise that with East Midland councils by way of some initial feedback in terms of our findings. But certainly is another route that we would want to pursue, because again, we would be able to start people with some real work experience here. And then, you know, that may well lead to an apprenticeship, or it may well lead to permanent appointments again. But again, it's a good way of looking around and bringing in new talent, growing our own, and providing opportunities for people to come in onto another programme.
I think we would support that, because I think it's really important for young people to get worthwhile work experience. And we know the council, and we know that anything that Carol set up would be worthwhile. And so to end on a cheery note on this particular item, would you like to read out the other apprentices' comments?
Thank
please?
you. And again, with this one, again, just building on what you've just said, that Chair, this is a statement from Ned Hatton Phillips, who actually came to us on the Kickstart programme that was introduced about a year or so ago. So, you know, really good success for him, having done Kickstart. And then we actually developed the apprenticeship post based on our experience with Ned. So he says in his statement, as an apprentice, I work 1 day a week on the apprenticeship online. This is done through online learning on Microsoft Teams and comes alongside 3 other days of work for Rutland County Council. The work and things we learn are integrated into my job, meaning anything I learn on the apprenticeship will be useful in my role as design officer. This works very well for me, as I work best in a quiet and focused environment. With the continuous advancements of Teams and other online collaboration software, learning online is just as effective as learning in person. The requirements for getting onto an apprenticeship vary greatly, but usually it is based on educational experience prior to the level of your apprenticeship. As I'm on a design-based apprenticeship, it was based highly off a portfolio of work, proving his passion and skill level. All you need to care about is what you're learning, and some experience and a great interview also helps, he says. For an online apprenticeship, you need to be prepared to learn online. It can be difficult and for some easy to get distracted, but it can allow a much higher level of productivity when mastered. Working in my own space is highly beneficial for my personal work output. The benefits, he says, you get paid to learn and work at the same time, which is great for someone who wants to keep increasing their skill while also using these learned skills practically on the job. For me, a particular benefit is being able to work from home. So quite an interesting contrast to Liam, who says he benefits more from being with people. Ned is a bit of a contrary one, due to his programme, the talk programme that he's doing is much more independent and solely based. But he's doing exceptionally well, and we've had some great feedback from his manager as well.
I'm going to show my ignorance now. What actually is it he does?
He is doing,
It's design something.
it's the creative design.
Yes,
He's in, oh, let me just find his manager's name. I think he's in planning policy.
so what's he designing? That's really
It's
what
a
I
very
wanted
good
to know.
question. It's a very good question. Just see if I've got the detail of his programme.
I don't know whether the rest of you councillors all know, and I'm just being mega
Yeah,
ignorant
I-
on this.
Just see if I've got the detail of his programme.
As you're all not looking at me, I suspect that everybody feels a bit the same way. Yes, that's right.
It's called creative design. Let's just see if it's got any further details on here for me. Oh, so he works for John Herbert. He's in the engagement and participation team. Yeah.
Thank
Just see if
you.
it's given a summary of his programme.
That will be mostly online design.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Questionnaires and the like. I'm simplifying it to unfairly to him, I suspect, but I think we've got a bit of a sense.
Yeah, I've got his agreement here, but I'd have to rummage
Yeah.
through it to find the full details. Yeah.
Just curious. Thank you. Were there any other questions on this paper, anyone? No. Okay, thank you. Then we'll move back to the agenda. Item 4, minutes of the last meeting. First of all, can I have a proposer and seconder? Sorry, I need to look up. Proposer for the accuracy. Can I remind you that None of you are here. Only me. Well, can I say, I think they are a correct record. Could I have advice, please, David, on what I do in this circumstance?
You don't have to, you can still vote through the minutes. If we had this audit as well, when previous committee, there was only one person present, they could still vote through the minutes if they're happy with them. Or if you prefer to go to the next meeting for them to be deferred, but again, it'll probably be the same committee members as it is today.
Yes, well, I'm happy to approve them because I think they were accurate. So is everybody else happy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. I do, however, have a question, and I'm going to use chairman's discretion. We don't have matters arising, but I'm going to raise it anyway. And it's in number 7 on the minutes, future ways of working. It was about a defined model of future ways of working, i.e. home working, etc., etc., was going to be issued in April. I just want to know whether it was.
Yes, it was. Yes. And we
Thank
shared
you.
that with staff at the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But whilst related to that, and it's probably I should deal with actually later on, if I remember. No, it doesn't come up later on. There is about to be, or has started, a staff survey. It is linked to that in my mind. In the past, the outcomes of staff surveys we have considered at this committee. I think that's actually helpful. If you agree, then would it be, if members agree, I would like it to go on the April meeting. Are you in agreement? Yes, we've got full agreement on that. Thank you. Yes, of course you can.
On this questionnaire then from, do we actually do exits interviews when people leave?
Yes, we do exit interviews. Yes.
Yeah, so will that be in with this information?
It wasn't part of the staff survey. The staff survey was a broader range of questions around a number of issues. The exit interviews we do at the time that somebody leaves. It's different and separate to the staff survey.
Okay, do you use an external agency for the staff surveys, or is it one internally where they might be worried about what they're saying because you're identified, so they wouldn't like to give anything negative?
No, this time we did it through SurveyMonkey, but it is completely anonymous and we only analyse it at organisational and directorate level. So it is not possible to identify someone's individual responses or to look into the system and say, okay, what did Carol Snell respond? Or I can tell who this person is who responded in that way because of. The results don't come through SurveyMonkey in that way. They're completely at question level.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think, though, Carol, that Councillor Fox has raised quite an interesting point, and wonder if, when you give us the results of the staff survey, you could also summarise any recurring factors from exit interviews.
Yeah, I can do that as a separate report. Yes.
But at the same meeting.
Yes, at the same meeting. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on, have we had any petitions, deputations or questions?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Have we had any questions from members?
None received.
Notices of motion?
None received.
Thank you. So we move on to item 9, HR policy reviews. As you are aware, this is a decision-making committee, which means we have to approve council policies in relation to HR. We have, over the last few years, in fact, since I first became a councillor, gone through all our policies at various points, updating, reviewing and improving. And from what was when I first joined this committee, 4 or 5 per meeting, we've now managed to break the back of all that work. When I say we, this is the royal we, you appreciate. It's Carol and her team who have done all the work. So Carol, can I ask you to please introduce the policies you've got for us tonight?
Yes, thank you. So the policy we have before this evening is the fostering friendly policy, and the recommendation is that this policy approved so that it would give some provision to our staff who are also foster carers. This is part of a broader package that our children's services team developed a little while ago for our broader foster carers in Rutland. It was approved by Cabinet in October. The key support and recommendation within the policy is to enable staff who are also foster carers to have some paid time off to attend key and essential meetings as part of the process of fostering a child. We don't anticipate this being huge numbers. We're not aware that we have a large number of staff who are also foster carers, but in fact, this may well encourage staff to come forward and be a foster carer. So we don't anticipate that this is about lots of extra time off for staff, but I think it is an important message when it's seen really as part of the whole in terms of our employee benefits, and I think really speaks to the importance that we as an organisation place on our foster carers. So the value, I think, is really important within the message here in terms of providing that support. So the paper lays out the recommendation for the policy, and you also have a draft policy before you. So I'm happy to take specific questions and see where you are happy to go with this one.
Councillor Walters?
I suspect you're going to say we're going to take this paper before the one you introduced. Because it's a different paper, isn't it? It doesn't matter.
We'll take this
We'll
one
take it
now.
as it is, yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
But we
It really
can
doesn't
cope with
matter.
that. We can cope with that. Can't we, Councillor Walters?
We can, can't we?
It's all right.
Um,
If it's any consolation to you, I was equally confused when Carol was briefing me on what was happening tonight, and I didn't say anything then, and I thought, I'm not going to say anything.
shall I have a stab at this one then? I have sat on fostering panels, as I think some people know. And what we always looked for wasn't just that they would be good carers, but that they had resilience. And part of that is a caring employer who will let them have that time. And simply turning up saying, oh, I've got a really good employer, I'm sure he'll let me have the time off, just isn't good enough. So I'm sure that having something like this in writing would be beneficial to foster panels as well as to potential carers themselves. I was a little bit concerned, as always, when I saw the generosity of it. But I've looked through a few other authorities and private businesses, and it seems to be about what everyone is doing. Certainly when you're going for your interview, it's probably an hour and a half and then half an hour for the decision, not a day. But having said that, you're wound up and you might be travelling. So I welcome it. And that's all I have to say, really. I welcome it, and perhaps it's overdue. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Anybody else on the fostering paper? Councillor Payne.
Just to say, I have already approved this in principle through Cabinet, so I'm very happy with it to support it again.
Right, I have a question, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just for clarity. Over the years, we have talked in Rutland about needing to get more foster carers. And we could see this paper as a way of encouraging our own staff to be foster carers for Rutland. But the paper says wouldn't matter whether you were fostering in Rutland or outside. And my question is why, but I think the answer might be that it'd be discriminatory.
And it was a question I spoke to the team about, but we were very clear this was about Rutland County Council employees. And what we tend to find is that they may not necessarily foster within county. So I agree there's an issue about alignment to foster carers for Rutland, but I think this is about a bit of a contribution perhaps to the broader fostering agenda. I think it would be very difficult to confine it down to you're an employee and you can only foster in Rutland to get the benefit of the policy. Yeah.
Thank you. I do appreciate that a number of our employees don't live in Rutland
correct.
either. I mean, we are very small and
Mm.
even if they don't live far away, they may live out county. But I thought it needed to be aired publicly.
Yeah.
Councillor Walters.
It may have changed. I may have been looking at an archive or something, but Lincolnshire's paper, the last time I looked, said fostering for Lincolnshire, but you may know something else. But as you say, Chairman, given the size of the county and that our employees quite likely live out of county, I think that would be unreasonable, and I think the paper is probably correct.
I think it's also important to think about the children that are being fostered, and it's much better for them to be going to school and living in the community and so on, where the foster carers live, and that's their community. The fact that the parent works in Rutland, maybe only a mile away, is neither here nor there, I would have thought. But I think it's something that's important that we talk about, not least so that our residents know we thought about these things. Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is to approve a new policy of fostering friendly for Rutland County Council employees as at Appendix A. Do I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Fox. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Brown. All in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now moving to the one that we thought we were going to be talking to. And that's the report on the various policies. Can I ask Carol if you could introduce this one, please?
Yeah, so this is the one I've prepared as well. So unfortunately, we are talking about the right paper, just in the wrong order. So there you go. So yes, at last time's meeting, you asked me to provide you with an update on our HR policies. I think the key message and point that I would want to make is that we are in a good place. I do acknowledge that some were written a number of years ago, but that doesn't mean to say they're out of date. They have stood the test of time and have served us well in terms of providing terms of clarity of our policy on an issue that particularly has legislation, regulation and good practice around it. I've outlined in the paper why and when we do review our policies, and also committee gave me delegated authority a few years ago to carry through any amendments that rose directly just from legislation and regulation on the basis that there was no option other than to adopt an amendment that may come through that route. For us now, it is about style and approach and key content of a policy that really is focused on the policy issue rather than creating a very lengthy, unwieldy policy document that contains perhaps detailed procedures that doesn't need to sit within a policy. And we also know, as we are also ourselves, we don't always really like reading something very long and detailed. And certainly we know from our managers that it's important for us as an internal support service to ensure they have access to relevant policies and practices that is very accessible, but also very user-friendly. They're more likely to review and check a policy document and understand that policy document if it is written and produced in such a way. We do compare notes with other authorities and other organisations, so we do take the opportunity to perhaps do some benchmarking and comparison, and in addition we also share our own versions of policies. So certainly in the region we have a very strong network across our HR colleagues, and we are very open in terms of sharing policy and practice. We also test our policies against ACAS guidance and CIPD guidance. That's the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. So we certainly look at their guidance and any relevant model policies that they may have. There is sometimes a bit of a risk or danger to over policying. I'm not sure that's a word, and I couldn't think of another way of defining it, but I think we know what I'm saying. As I said before, you know, managers need to manage. And for them, it is about having an overarching policy framework that enables them to get on and deliver their services and manage their team. So the importance is in the framework that provides the equity and fairness across the organisation from an employer's perspective. Clearly, if a manager acts outside of the law, then we're automatically in trouble and at risk. You know, for example, if they were just to dismiss someone without going through a proper process or giving notice. Similarly, if a manager was not to follow the framework or policy that we had defined and put in place, then again, the outcome could place us at risk. So, for example, wanting to dismiss someone and going through a process or give them a final warning, for example, when they haven't actually followed due process as provided within the policy, unless, of course, it's a gross misconduct issue, it's quite different. Neither could they tell someone that their job is now a high grade and pay them more money without again following, for example, our job evaluation policy. So, you know, those are the reasons and the realms for having policies and procedures and provide that framework and ensure that our managers know what they are. The support that HR provide in terms of these policies and adoption of the policies really and for managers is around coaching, advising and supporting and ensuring and helping them understand what the policy is doing. We don't do managers' jobs for them in that respect. And whilst we've probably done a little bit less training over the last couple of years, we hope we can bring something back again during next year. We do have some management programs that we're commissioning in any event for 23 onwards. So we can supplement that with, again, some deep dives into some key policy areas. We certainly do want to start targeting some of the policies, but the rationale, again, is where we need managers really to, you know, to stand up and lead and be fully aware of what that framework is, and that enables them to deliver what they need to do, supported by the tools and the toolkits. So certainly we are looking to target a review of our probation policy and procedure. Sickness absence is always one that is worth refreshing and reviewing. Our restructure policy, again, in the light of the work we're going through with transformation and what potential changes could be ahead in the future for the authority, and flexible working to ensure, again, and just to rewrite that in line with our ways of working practices. But they will be over a period of time. We're looking to target those ones over the next year. I'm sure in terms of our work programme, we can absorb those into the plan for the next, certainly for the next 9 months. So that's where we are at currently. So again, happy to take any further questions.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, I was going to highlight the flexible working with people working from home now. That's quite out of date. But if you're actually going to look to review that, then this year, then can't really see an issue with that. What does umbrella families mean?
It's a term we've used where we've combined a number of factors into one overarching umbrella policy. So, for example, the umbrella leave policy includes annual leave, compassionate leave, jury service, being a governor, that sort of armed forces leave, that type of thing. It's all under one umbrella policy document. Yeah.
Anyone else? Councillor Brown.
Do we have a policy, because you mentioned leave for what was it, being a governor or something like that, for other things, like, because I'm a magistrate and some people who work for public organisations say that they get a certain number of days leave for that. Do we do the same? I assume we do.
Yes, that is covered within the umbrella leave policy. I can't remember what our provision is without checking it. I don't believe we give paid leave for that, but we do acknowledge it as something that people might want to do. Yes.
So you don't have to take a day's holiday,
No.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you. Some of these haven't been revised since 2014, 2016. Do we still look at them and check their currency in between? You know, it's nearly 2023 now. It's 2022, nearly 20. Some of them are quite old.
Yeah, then I think, as I said at the start, it doesn't mean to say they are out of date. So we obviously keep very up to speed and up to date with changes in legislation, regulation.
Yeah.
things that might come through tribunals. So we are very aware of issues that emerge, and it would be those things that would inform a decision or need to review a policy. So if they haven't been looked at for a while, they haven't had nothing that has occurred by way of legislation or regulation that would require a change within those policies.
Yeah, 2014 seems quite a long time ago, and I'm just wondering if we should just do a sense check of them every now
Yeah,
and
I
then.
mean, yeah, we would know if there was an issue with currency of the content
Because
in there. Yeah.
for instance, in previous life, acting up and additional responsibility allowance in January 2015, I would have thought that that would have somehow been linked to pay policy, but not here.
No.
Take it.
No, what that policy relates to is what our policy is in terms of arrangements for somebody acting up to cover somebody else's role. It doesn't go into necessarily the actual pay
Okay.
values. We
Right.
purposely keep values out of policies
it.
because they just change year on year.
Okay.
And that is one that is current and we do use fairly regularly. So it's more about depicting the practice that we adopt within the authority when we may need to cover a role, and we can provide the opportunity internally for somebody to act up into that role for a short period of
So it's
time.
a set of principles.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
And it works very well, I would say, in terms of, again, providing opportunities for individuals in the organisation to step up and show what they have to offer on a short-term basis, whether it's a short-term because the need is only short-term or as part of the developing process has worked really well. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Brown?
If someone does see the need to take the council to an employment tribunal, do we have in-house lawyers to deal with that, or do you outsource it? And if so, who do we use?
We don't have in-house employment lawyers. We've got a very small legal team, as you know, with Sarah Kawaja and one other lawyer. So they're not employment law specialists. As you know, it's a very specialist niche area. So on the very rare occasion, I'm pleased to say that happens, we do commission an external legal advisor, and we would commission through Sarah's team using EM Lawshare. Yeah.
Using
EM Lawshare. It's a regional collaboration.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else? No? Well, I've got a couple. Like Councillor Payne, I noticed some of the dates, and one of the 2014s was sickness absence, and I'm very glad that that was in your list of ones that are our priority list, not least because with so many people working from home and often then working when they're not 100% fit, it actually makes it harder to determine when you're off sick and when you're just not working very much. So I think that's actually quite helpful. I'd also like you to look through, even if no change is needed, the no smoking policy, because that was 2015 and people vape now, and I don't know whether vaping is appropriately covered in it. I cannot remember mentioning vaping when we looked at it, and it was, as I say, quite a long time ago now. And the third one I would like looking at again is employer supported volunteering, because we are transforming the way we work as a council. We are looking to work in partnership with other organisations, some of which will be voluntary organisations. And so that there may be situations where we have the potential to stop employing somebody or a group of people because we are not delivering the service, and then giving somebody else time off to do it because they are doing it as a volunteer, if that makes sense. So I think we need to look at it. So we're very clear about being fair to all our employees, and not to put at risk our own business at the same time. I think it's where I've come to on that one. But that's all I have to say on this policy. If there's nothing else from anyone else, no. Okay. Sorry, on this paper. And I merely ask you that you note the range of policies that the council has, the process it follows, and are content with the review and update process. Yes, yes, we're all noting. Thank you. And now we are at item 11. I have received no notice of urgent business and I have none myself. And therefore I call the meeting to a close at 7:55. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.